All right, how's everybody feeling after that dance party? You know, you must be, blood's flowing, alcohol is coming. This is great. Where's mine? Can somebody bring one up here? Like, why not, right? Okay, so this is what my desktop looked like yesterday morning. So here's my task at every SoMeT conference. Thank you, Linz. Oh, awesome. So my task at every SoMeT conference is to start with a blank presentation and fill it with everything I learned in 2 days and then present it at the end. So if you're freaked out about public speaking, think about how freaked out I am at the morning of day one. Because I'm like, how am I going to pull this together? But then by the end of day two, I got way too much. And I'm like, what do you mean I only get half an hour? I need at least like an hour and a half to go through all this. Because the learning is always so incredible and so valuable that it really helps me in my job. And I hope it really helps you in your job.
Why not?
So as a strategist, it's my job to take client problems and look at patterns that are out there, new developments, trends, and make sense out of them, and then apply them into solutions that work. So that's what I've been doing the last couple of days. So let's get into it. And I want to start with Andrew, who gave a great presentation yesterday. And the one thing that really stood out for me is when he said, it was kind of like sort of a slide, throwaway comment. Well, 90% of our marketing is on digital, and in some markets it's 100%. I've been in this business for over 15 years. You have any idea how significant that is? I've been battling more budgets, and I've been arguing about the importance and the role of digital for so long. And now look where we are, where a destination like New Zealand applies that much marketing dollars into digital marketing. And it really shows the transition that we've gone through. And this is not just at New Zealand. New Zealand has always been a leader, and I remember 15 years ago when I worked at Tourism British Columbia, I spent hours and hours and hours on the then Pure NZ website because my boss was obsessed with New Zealand, and he wanted me to learn everything about it, and actually Queensland was a close second. I've never been to New Zealand, but I know everything about it, and it's high on my list because I've spent way too much time researching it. But you see this around the world. If you look at the Skift CEO articles, all the CEOs are now talking about the shift, the importance of digital, the importance of social, how it affects the industry, how it affects their organization, and how they're dealing with it or how they're struggling with it. So, this is what I'm really excited about. We've fought the good fight. We've won, and we have now entered the end game. Thank you, Morpheus. So, Chris, yesterday, had, a really good... Wait a second. Paul Barron was hovering around my computer at the last break. Now I know what he's doing. Wait a second. Okay, sorry. Sorry, Chris. And he put something out there, and it's very tweetable. DMO's role is to extend the connection between people and place. And this has been on my mind for the last day. I'm trying to figure out what it means. It makes sense, and I think it's true. I'm just trying to sort of, put specifics behind it. But I think that one of the connections between a place and the people is brand. And what is a brand? And this is what I've been arguing as well for 15 years. What is a brand really? When I started my career, I came more from a business and technology side. I wasn't really experienced in marketing communication or educated in that amount of depth. But so I started researching it because every time I wanted to do something, I got the word brand thrown at me. So I thought this must be a really complicated topic. You must probably have like a long education in order to really understand it and apply it. But then I realized that it's very, not necessarily easy, but there's not really a standard way of doing it. And my conclusion was that a brand is really something that is not something that an organization creates. It's something that lives in the mind of the consumer. And it's really affected by everything that you hear about a brand and everything that you experience about a brand. So in a destination context, a tourism brand is really all the stories that you hear from people, from media, from influencers, word of mouth, but also the experience you have on the ground. And because all the stories are different, all the experiences are different, ultimately a brand is very, very individual, and it's based on stories. So we all know the importance of brand. Stories are really, really important. They're kind of a big deal. Thank you, Ron. So let's talk about stories. Let's talk about storytelling for a minute. So what I learned in the last couple days is that you really need to know what your story is. So David yesterday talked about how he took a small destination and turned a passion from a group of people there into a very, very successful niche product. They know their story. Flanders knows their story, and some people are probably pretty happy about it. I am. Flanders beer, I agree, it's the best beer in the world. You also need to know your audience. And if you know your story, you need to know what you are. And if you know your audience, you also need to know what you're not. Now, this is from SoMeT in the EU last year. This was Iceland who presented. And this was a really, really important key moment in my career, because for the first time I heard a DMO say, and it's the first sentence, Iceland, it's not for everyone. Because every other DMO in the world goes, oh, we have something for everybody. We have family stuff, we have stuff for old people, young people. If you want to have outdoor adventure, we have great food. Now, Iceland made a statement that said, Iceland, we're not for everybody. And then they told what they are. Because they know if the wrong people visit, they get the wrong experience, and they'll probably tell the wrong stories, and that's not going to help us. So if you're talking about stories and your storytelling, Rebecca shared that you really need to think about what are your business goals, but also, what does your consumer want, and how do your consumers engage? And you need to find that sweet spot. I love Venn diagrams, and this is the right content. And then you need to think about the types of content that you can create. Do you need to inspire, or do you just want to help people? And you need to be honest. This came up through social media. In Europe this year, it was actually a thing. People talked about it. It came up a few times, including this presentation from northern Norway region. It rains a lot there. So guess what? They're running with it. You want to experience the rain in northern Norway? Come visit. And they use it in their marketing. They're being honest about it. Don't hide what you are. If the experience doesn't match the stories that you tell, you're in trouble. Although I do like the watermelon comments too. Although in the morning I do need my coffee. So don't serve me watermelon juice. Aaron put it in a video context, something that Google has used. A content creation strategy, hygiene, hub, and hero. So hero content is what most DMOs are really, really good at and focused on. This is this very highly slick produced, often expensive to create content, like a TV commercial. But there is other content that you can create that has an impact as well, but at a different level. Maybe the reach isn't as high, or maybe the production value doesn't need to be as high. And then you've got hygiene content, which is even a step down from that. And that is really where that help bucket can come in, where you can create videos that are really just intended to help people solve a very, very specific problem. Now, New Zealand shared some great hero content. I'm not saying don't create hero content anymore. It's very important. And the video that I saw yesterday, actually, I thought was really, really brilliant. And I hope that that's the experience, that the experience matches it, that you can find those chandeliers at a second-hand store. And I'm actually looking forward to watching the rest of this series as well. But what I saw in the last couple days is so much opportunity and so many different ways to create that hub and hygiene content in different ways. whether it's the hyperlapses or whether it's the real-time content, that's really becoming a trend. You see it all over the world. People using Periscope, broadcasting things in a live way. We even saw some 3D today. And of course, Periscope was used throughout the conference. And I even saw somebody use Meerkat as well, the Periscope competitor. So different production value, different purposes, different audiences, and also different budgets associated with it. And I actually did like what Andrew said about his hero content, how they're actually producing even the hero content in a different way, that it's only 25% of the cost of what it used to be. And one of the ways of doing that is just by letting go of control and giving the creatives more liberty to really tell the story in the way that they want to do it. So I'm going to add one other way to create content to the mix. Who's heard of 1 second every day? Few people. So 1 second every day is an app that you can download, and every day you create a 1 second video, and then the app will put it together and stitch it together into a video. So I've been doing this every day all year. So for every day of the year I got 1 second, and then every month I put my video on Facebook. So what I'm going to show you is my June in 1 second every day.
Swing. Nice.
The horse. Wolf card.
Let's roll in there. Guys.
You can see I hang out with my daughter a lot. So this is a really, really cool way of creating content in a different format. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to create my 1 second for today, featuring all of you. So let's get this going. See if this works. Chris took a selfie, so I can definitely do this. So maybe I count down 3, 2, 1, and maybe we all shout "Good day." Does that work? 3, 2, 1. Good day. All right, 4 seconds. I'll tweet this month out. Okay, so we talked about content and we talked about storytelling. But storytelling is often a one-way conversation. So what about, or a one-way way of communicating? What about a conversation, right? It's really, really important. So, and who's really the hero of the story? Quite often, the hero of the story is the destination, it's you. But really, the hero should maybe be your visitor. Because what is a visitor to a destination in sort of a story context, right? The destination is really the stage where a story takes place. And a visitor is kind of like the hero of the story, the lead character, if you like. And all the experiences that somebody has within your destination, the product that they visit, the people that they interact with, that creates the plot of the story, which is ultimately shared in social media. So, think about how to manage that conversation and how to manage that story on an individual basis. Now, Shuttle talked about the I Amsterdam sign, and the I Amsterdam sign is a very, very good example of getting people to share their story. And it is so successful, it's kind of like sort of the benchmark of what everything is measured against. Now, what Shuttle didn't share this time around, because he did the same presentation in Amsterdam, was some data. So I'll just share it with you, because he told us last time. So they did some research, and every day, about 8,000 photos are taken of the I Amsterdam sign. And they asked people, are you going to share this in social media, or are you going to share this in what we call dark media, like WhatsApp, Facebook, Messenger, just the things that isn't public, the private networks, Snapchat, and what have you. So half of the people that took a photo said, yeah, I'm going to share this. I'm going to share this with my friends. So they calculated that every day, about 1.2 million people are reached with a photo of the I Amsterdam sign, which is significant marketing, right? and they don't even use a hashtag. So the point really is that other people's stories overwhelm the stories that you tell as a DMO. And that's what we're learning here, and that's what we've heard. So it doesn't mean that you should stop creating your own stories, you just need to be really, really strategic about it. What problems are we trying to solve? Where do we focus? Focus is something that came up a few times, right? Andrew in New Zealand said, we are after the active considerers, and we want to move them to the next stage of the funnel, and we're using very, very specific stories in order to get them there. So, who are those storytellers that create this mass volume of content? Well, your visitors. Somebody actually dug up their I Amsterdam sign photo, Emma, thank you very much, and shared it yesterday. But also your tourism operators, right? They are a very, very important group of storytellers. And their marketing and their social media activity is just as important as your own, maybe more, because they're reaching the same consumer, maybe even more consumers, or at least a more targeted consumer. So making sure that they're doing the right thing is maybe more important than doing your own thing. So what you see around the world is leading destinations creating programs to help their operators understand the value of social media, understand how do I get people to share more content, and what do I do with that content through my own channels, through my own digital channels, through my own social channels. A lot of money is moved from sort of marketing to these kind of programs. DMO staff, very, very important to engage them as well. We've had clients who send all their staff, from the front desk person to the CEO, to a social media course. So that they knew what it's about, how to do it, how to properly tweet, how to properly use Facebook. And why did they do that? Not because their reach is so tremendous. It helps change the culture of the organization. It's often culture that prevents progress in DMOs. Silos, people are protective of their jobs, or so they think, by holding on to traditional media. But knowledge is power, and by giving people access to the knowledge, to the skills, they become a lot more comfortable with it. The culture of the organization changes, and all of a sudden innovation happens. And then, of course, there are influencers. We've seen a few case studies. We've heard from a few influencers like Lauren and from Cass from White Travel blog. They're a very, very important group to talk to a very specific audience. And they have more reach, they have more credibility, and they take their audience around the world with them. I do agree with Chris that they do bounce around from destination to destination, so selecting the right audience is really, really important, because all the competition gets featured as well. So what we often do, this is not a diss against travel bloggers at all, they're important, we work with them. But we also look for the niche bloggers. So if we would work with a mountain biking destination, we would look for the right bloggers, also outside of the travel category, who are blogging specifically about mountain biking, because they talk to the right people. So everybody benefits from sharing content and help hype the destination up, right? Turning people into advocates across the board. This is what I heard, this is what's important. So what do you do to help? How do you do to get that going? Well, you can encourage them through the I Amsterdam sign or through other physical things. But you can also encourage them. And one of the ways to encourage them is by promoting a hashtag, engaging them in social media. You'll be amazed what happens if you throw a hashtag out there. All of a sudden people start using it, and they'll start producing more content. Now, if you monitor that and you then engage with them, you say, oh, that's a great photo, where are you going next? Or did you take any other photos there? All of a sudden, much, much more content comes, and that's what it's all about. They feel appreciated. Oh my God, the DMO's talking to me, this is amazing. And they'll start producing more content. So the stuff that TQ is doing is very, very, very important and very successful. But you need to enable them as well. It's one thing if somebody can take a photo, if you can't share it, that's a missed opportunity. So what Paul was talking about with the citywide Wi-Fi is very, very relevant, because it enables all these people all of a sudden to start sharing the content, but otherwise maybe they wouldn't have. And when all that content comes in, like I mentioned, you need to curate it, just like Emma was talking about as part of their event strategy. You know, there's all these conversations out there, you curate them, and then you engage with the people where relevant. You can amplify their content, but maybe you can mitigate a problem, or you can enhance the experience to surprise and delight. And of course, you can learn from it as well, because if everybody is complaining about certain things or confused about certain things, you can fix those very, very specific problems. So we were talking about a brand, we were talking about stories. So a brand is really a collection of stories, and Conspiracy Keanu asks me, isn't the experience what really matters then? Yes, it is. It does. So here's my best tweet of SoMeT 15 AU, which I forgot to add. Thank you very much, Busy's communication. People on holidays don't go on holidays to give a shit, to have a shit time. So I really botched that one up.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it came from Charles, because he's Dutch just like me, and that's what we do. So it is about the experience, because a good experience turns into the right stories. The right stories turns into the right brand perceptions amongst the people that they share it with. So Frank threw a new formula out there that I'm intrigued by. I want to talk to him a little more, but it's true. It's all about the experience, the external context, the internal context, the context of the complete experience and everything that's related to it. And of course, a truly remarkable and an authentic experience to your audience, turns into the best stories that you can have. Just like David shared yesterday, that's an authentic story. Those are authentic experiences. The people that go, they will rave about it, they will share it. And what he did with everybody to stand up, if you're an expert and if you have done it before, if you're willing to do it, that's exactly how it works. And we use that kind of concept all the time. If I have to explain to my clients, yes, I'm gonna work with a blogger, but hear me out, because that blogger talks to a very, very relevant audience who will then start a word-of-mouth cascade. And that's exactly what he did in a very simple way yesterday. It was brilliant. It starts with the builder, who gets the passionate people in his community to use the trails, who will then engage the enthusiasts from around the region and maybe even beyond that, and they will in turn talk to everybody else. It's a social media cascade that starts with a really, really good experience. So I've got a pro tip for you. If you want to learn more about what really influences people and how people behave when it comes, and how they are influenced and who they're influenced by, and where in their circles, you need to read a book called Grouped by Paul Adams. Paul Adams worked for Google, he worked for Facebook, and now he works at an agency in Ireland. Very thin book, and it's very, very relevant. So you can talk about the experience, but you need to take the experience and put it in the overall destination context as a DMO. And that's the customer journey. Now, the customer journey doesn't start when somebody arrives. The customer journey starts when somebody becomes aware, when somebody hears a story, when somebody sees that article, when somebody goes online and starts researching. That's all part of the customer journey. And they show up, they go to the destination, they have the experience, and then they return home, and maybe they'll do some sharing and some word of mouth. So what we started to do through service design processes is map out the emotional experience that somebody has as part of the journey. Figure out what the journey is, and then get the emotional experience. Where is the emotion really, really positive? Where is it really, really negative? Where is it average? Meh. And so what can we do to mitigate the negative experience, to add to the positive experiences, remove roadblocks, just like Andrew was talking about, and maybe build in some key points where people will take that selfie or take that photo or video, or write that positive TripAdvisor review. And there's a lot of data that you can now use to analyze this stuff. This is from Charles. Where are people sharing in Amsterdam? What are the remarkable things that people will share? But Paul from Tourism Victoria, he talked about how they can use the Wi-Fi data and analyze how people move throughout the city. And if somebody visits one attraction, what other things do they do? And what can we do to influence that, or what can we do to make that experience better? Like I said, overcoming barriers, being very, very focused. You can also add value in that process. Now, man, Paul. Sorry, Chris. So I downloaded Queensland's app when I was, it came out, so Chris told me about it, so I downloaded it back home, and I was like, wow, this is actually a pretty good app. I mean, most DMO apps that I download, I look at, and I never use it again, because I use the TripAdvisor app, because I use Google Maps, I use Yelp, I use Google, what else do I need? And then I landed at Brisbane Airport, and it was like, ping, welcome to Queensland. And as I go throughout Queensland, these little things keep popping up with bits of information, tips, but also reminding me that the app is there, that I can use it. So, the example that he used about, I'm in Castlereagh County. Do you know what a Castlereagh is here? Watch this video. That's enhancing the experience. That's giving some context to the experience. That's what people want. That's why people, read the history in the Lonely Planet book, or they used to. So, congratulations, TEQ. Great app, the first one that I'm actually using as I'm traveling. The leaders in this whole end-to-end customer journey concept is Disney. So Disney, when you go online, you create your profile, you book your trip, you get sent a bracelet. That bracelet is now the entrance to the parks. It opens your hotel door. You can pay with it. When you have a reservation in a restaurant, you can sit at the table, you'll scan, and people will just show up and greet you by your first name. If there's a Disney photographer takes your picture and you scan it, they'll automatically add the pictures to your website. The end-to-end experience is completely managed. It's integrated with the mobile app. If you want front-of-the-line quick passes for certain attractions, you can do that, and then you scan your bracelet. It is amazing. It's called My Disney Plus, and if you're ever there, I went to Disney World just to experience it so that I can talk about it credibly. So I'm walking around, 45-year-old man, in between all the kids. It's a little creepy, but it's all about research. So if the experience matters most, right, isn't destination development the end game then? Keanu, your conspiracy is right on. So this was an article in the New York Times just last week, the revolt against tourism. What's happening in certain places where tourism becomes too big, residents becoming aggressive against tourists, just like Charlotte was talking about a little bit. There's a great documentary that you need to watch called Bye Bye Barcelona. It's a must-watch if you're a DMO professional. It's all about how tourism is destroying Barcelona's culture for its residents. So planning your destination, small or large, becomes really, really important because Cheryl had a great slide. It is a triangle. It's between residents, between businesses, and between visitors. And you need to get it right between all three. So you need to manage the destination, manage the experience in the right way. Holistic destination management. So this is this is the way we look at things, and I thought I'd share it with you, to help you as a tool to think about these things as I'm running out of time. So in the heart of everything sits stories, like we talked about, because ultimately it's stories that will sell or destroy your destination. So it's important to get the stories right. Now when you think about it from a destination promotion perspective, you look at the experiences and you want to get those experiences to the right target audience. So and you do that through the stories, but you don't do that yourself anymore. There's a whole range of storytellers that are taking those experiences into their own stories and sharing that with their network through their channels. So that's how you need to look at these things. What are my experiences? What's the right audience? Who are the right storytellers? What channels do I need to do to get the right stories produced? And do I need to do that myself, or do I need to get others to do that? If you flip it the other way, if you look at it from a destination development perspective, you can think about it, okay, I got the right target audience. What do I need to do about the experience to get the right stories out, to get more of those people? Do I have any gaps in my products? Do I have any gaps in my experiences? Do I need to mitigate anything? Do I need to improve anything? Do I need to encourage any product development? And that's where your economic development becomes important, your politicians become important, and that's where the triangle between business, visitors, and residents becomes really, really important. So I'm going to wrap this up because this is a lot that you can do. So as a DMO, and I'm preaching to the converted because you're thinking, yeah, the people that should hear this, they're all back home. But you need to focus, which means you need to focus on the things that are right. You need to strip out the things that have become irrelevant. And sometimes that includes making some tough choices, because otherwise you're never going to be successful. So this is my conclusion in summary. The end game has begun. Stories are important, but you need to think about the conversation, which means you need to think about other people as well. A brand is just a collection of stories. The experience is ultimately what creates stories, what creates brands, and you need to focus, otherwise you're never going to be successful. That's my wrap-up. Thank you very much.